Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm so excited for the reading that I have planned for you all today. I thought that because so many people are feeling really isolated right now, and we also happen to be in Virgo season, I would do a Hermit card themed reading, because if you don't know, the Hermit if you don't know, the Hermit card is associated with the sign of Virgo, and yeah, I just thought that would be an interesting topic. I have these lanterns here as well as this Learn rock, so the vibe is set. I have 4 different Hermit cards for you to pick today from different tarot decks. So I'll go through those, and also I picked out crystals to go with them. My thought for this reading is we'll look at, are you too isolated right now, or are you just feeling that way because of how the world is currently? We'll take a look at how you can bring your life into balance. We'll take a look at how you can bring your life back into balance if you are indeed out of balance, or maybe we'll get the message that you're actually looking okay. But we'll just see what the cards have for you. So I'm going to get into the different decks and crystals right now. Our first Hermit card is from the Botanica Tarot deck. It's a really cool seed pod. I've definitely found one of these before. Okay, the crystal I picked to go with it is, I believe, a bloodstone that I've had since I was a kid, which is really cool. So that's this one. Ooh. Whoops. The second tarot card that I have for you is from the Spacious Tarot, which is a really cool deck, one of my favorites. This card is so awesome. And the stone that I picked for it is this sodalite that I've also had since I was a kid, which is so cool. I knew what I was about. I just got a little lost along the way, just like the Hermit, I guess. Our third Hermit is from the Gentle Tarot deck. It's a super cute fox. The crystal I picked for this pile is actually a red moss agate tumble, I believe. This was a freebie, so I don't know for sure. But I figured, I don't know, moss agate makes me think of the Hermit, and the red makes it look like bloodstone, so I thought that was appropriate. And for the fourth pile, we have this Sequoia Tree Hermit card from the Botanical Tarot deck. And the stone I picked for this one is another one I heard is associated with Virgo sometimes, which is howlite. So this is my howlite tumble. Very calming. So those are the 4 cards, and you can take however much time you need to choose a pile or a card or a crystal. I'm going to, so if you need to do that, feel free to pause the video here. I'm going to move on and start with the first group here. And if you picked one of the other 3 groups, there will be timestamps in the description of this video. The video will also conveniently be split into chapters, so it should be easy for you to find where you want to be. But yeah, thank you, and of course feel free to check out multiple piles if you're interested. Whatever you feel called to, really. And if you're not sure, you can just try one. If it's not resonating, you can try a different one. And there's always the chance that there will not be a message for you in this video. I can only channel so many groups of people at one time. So many different human experiences, but I hope that there is something for you because you're here. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into group 1. Other groups, I'll see you in a second. Hello, group 1. So you chose the So you chose the Botanica Tarot deck. This deck is really cool. I haven't had it for a super long time. I really like the size in my hands. They're pretty small cards, and it has really high quality gold foil. I actually got this deck as a gift. But okay, we already had a card come out. Cool. So I'm going to shuffle your cards. They're jumping out. I kept the Hermit card out for all of these, just so that it would set the tone for the reading. Interesting. The positions for these cards were your path before you. It's all Hermit themed, so if you don't know, the original Hermit card is an individual sort of on a journey of personal growth and self-discovery. They're alone in the wilderness. They have a lantern. That's kind of their guiding light, and it represents their enlightenment. So the positions of the spread that I crafted here are, this is your path, this has been your distractions, the third card is your true self that the world doesn't necessarily see, and the fourth card is your guiding light, like the lantern of sorts for the Hermit. So yeah, interesting. You got two majors and two minors here, so we'll talk about that. And I'm also going to pull some oracle cards to sort of flesh out the reading a little bit more. What jumped out for me here is that you have the Empress as your path. That tells me that you have been learning more about self-care. And I think that has been on people's minds a lot more in recent times. I think it's kind of had to be, and we've all had more time for ourselves, ideally. I think due to heightened stress, there's been more of a need to at least examine what we can do for ourselves or for each other, our loved ones. So the Empress has this nurturing energy, and if that's the path that you've been on, she's also a very nature-based card or energy. It makes me think of the Hermit as well. Like, they're both typically depicted as being out, immersed in like very wild nature settings. So it makes sense. So I see the Empress as your path card, really showing that you've been working on figuring out how to take better care of yourself and the people around you, and maybe struggling with that. With your distractions and your guiding light being the High Priestess in reverse and the Nine of Swords, that shows me a lot of anxiety and self-doubt. So if you have the High Priestess in reverse, that can mean that you're doubting your intuition, your own psychic abilities, or just life experience to intuit what you know to be true about people and situations. You might be consumed in doubt, whether that's from making a mistake in the past, people telling you that you're wrong to feel a certain way, being gaslit by others, just general lack of self-confidence. If your guiding light position is Nine of Swords, or if your guiding light is anxiety, which is what Nine of Swords represents, then you have a really valid reason to doubt yourself, because anxiety is the enemy of intuition a lot of the time. And I think for so many people, we have to work on discerning between the two. And so that can really block you and slow you down and distract you if you never know if your impulses are right or not. And that can be a very isolating experience. I also see that if your true self is the Six of Wands, you have a lot of potential to be so much more confident and someone people even turn to for your gifts and your strengths and your knowledge about situations. So yeah, I think your distractions really may have been a detriment to you expressing your true self. So in that case, I would say maybe you have been too isolated, because if you're on that sort of a journey, you probably aren't as engaged with at least one aspect of your life as you would like to be, whether it's performing better at work, or being more authentic with your friends and family, or getting out there and dating, even in a wild time such as a panoramic that we are in. Something is probably holding you back from being as connected as you would like to be in at least one of those areas of life, or a different one that I didn't mention. We can look into this further with oracle cards. So I'm going to pull some of those. I have a new deck that I'm so excited to try out. It is the Phenomena Oracle deck by Jessica Bott, who made another one of the decks in this video, the Botanical Tarot, as well as the latest video on my channel, the Blacklight Botanical Oracle deck. I will have that linked in the cards above, as well as in the description if you're interested in that deck review video. But yes, we'll use the Phenomena cards. I thought that would be perfect, kind of fitting into the natural theme, and also sort of like the pathworking, pathfinding theme, because it is, yeah, just really naturey and like shows different environments. So that can shed some more light on sort of the space you've been in. Earthquake, okay. Honestly, I think that card was like what came to mind when I picked this deck out, and I even thought like it'd be so funny if that was like one of the first cards that came out from this deck, and of course it delivered. Of course, wow, I can't even believe. Okay. Oh man, it's like, I know people don't get tarot and oracle all the time, but it's like, after you've seen the probabilities, if you are a reader or just someone who enjoys it, if you've seen the probabilities of things, you know, it really just, it boggles the mind like too many times, you know? Let me look at one more. It's so funny. Okay. Geyser. Yeah, let's do it like this. Or actually, fog would be perfect for this. Geyser is perfect for this. Nice. Interesting. Okay, so I'm still getting to know this deck as well. So fun though. I want to like show off the back. It's so pretty. Put it here. So, earthquake. That is pretty much as clear as it gets in terms of like a sudden disruption or even a slow separation. Like, you know, fault lines start very small, right? They don't immediately splinter out of control type of thing. Or maybe they do, maybe it's more sudden, but you know, the message of separation and disruption is really clear here. So if you're feeling earthquake energy, maybe you had a tower moment of sorts, something that really shook your life up in the last couple of years, or maybe just the world around you feels like an earthquake. There also have been literal earthquakes. Whatever it is, you know, that can really turn things upside down and like quite literally shake your confidence and make you feel separated from people. The fog here, I saw that, I immediately thought of the High Priestess in reverse. Lack of clarity, right? And that is more of like a slow rolling in. You know, there's a cute little guidebook for this. It's hidden, obscure, and envelop. So yeah, you might feel like your mind is clouded by your anxiety. You know, the exhaustion that comes from that can be, yeah, just total brain fog, you know, and that will separate you from your intuition, and that'll also make you really reactive, like a geyser, because you'll go from not knowing what's going on to sensing a threat and immediately just being like reacting, not responding in a really mindful way. And that can also make you withdraw or have negative consequences on your life that cause you to have to withdraw or just feel shame and withdraw. The geyser energy here kind of fits in with the more fiery energy of the Six of Wands. We have sudden surprise release. Yeah, so if anxiety is running your life, that will run you down. And, you know, honestly, it's giving me like Seven of Wands energy, just like you're ready to react and fight back at any moment, explode, you know, because you don't feel safe within yourself. You don't feel like you can trust yourself, and that inevitably will leach out and make you feel like you can't trust other people. So I'm definitely still of the mind as this reading moves along that you probably are more isolated than you would like to be or should be. I'm gonna pull more oracle cards. Of course, I'm always working with these. They really are like some of my favorites and so undervalued. The Inner Child oracle cards. I love this deck so much. And you really don't hear people use it that often. But I had to bring that out for this reading because it's so good. It's just so good. And, you know, I think the Hermit is in the process of looking back at the past. You know, they're almost halfway through the Fool's journey, and I don't know, I feel like I associate it with the time in your life where you finally slowed down enough to start doing inner child work. So I thought this deck would be perfect. I got 2 cards. I didn't know necessarily how many I was going to pull, but they're good ones, so I'm going to keep them. So we got Disappointment is Not the End. Maybe we can fit it here. And then Say Yes, which seem fitting. I will read the descriptions for these, as I always do when I feature them in a video. So, disappointment is not the end. It is okay to be disappointed. It is okay to make mistakes. We do the best we can with the knowledge that we have, but not everything will always turn out as we hope. This is a part of life, and though it may feel like the end, it most certainly is not. Do not let disappointments or the fear of disappointment keep you from enjoying your life. And for Say Yes, we have, now is the time to open up and receive. It may be somewhat unnerving, but if we are not open to the good things in life, they might pass us by. Practice saying yes to what you know will stretch you, things you might be a little unsure of. There is abundance all around us. Sometimes we just need to make space for it to appear. Sometimes an earthquake opens things up. It turns our world upside down, but it opens things up like a tower moment. And you know, I think when you have anxiety, it really is important to say yes, not to push yourself so far that you then shut down and receive again because you're so overwhelmed or overstimulated. But just healthy amounts of small little yeses every day to expand your comfort zone and get you back in touch with yourself and the people who love you, who miss you, who you probably miss if you are isolating yourself. So maybe this is, you know, because you have to logistically for safety reasons. But if it is sort of an overextension of that, I think that is a vibe for so many people who are struggling with their mental health. It's like this environment is the perfect excuse to recede from life. I know a lot of people feel that way. You might not, but it is actually very common of an attitude to have. I think it's really important to not take that too far, especially if you are living in the northern hemisphere while it's still warm out here, you know, before it gets really cold this winter, to really tap back in as much as you can and make the most of that time, because we don't know what this winter is going to look like. And yeah, it's important. And on that note, the last the last deck I wanted to use today is the Halloween Oracle. Love, one of the first, or if not the first, Oracle deck I ever got. It's so good. I actually got it in Salem. I live in Massachusetts, which is really cool. Yeah, so that was sort of a magical experience. But given that Virgo season sort of leads up into spooky season, you know, I thought that it would make sense to bring this deck into the mix. Ooh. Let's see what it has for you. An anxious friend, potentially. I really do feel you if that is how you feel. Oh, all right. Lady de los Muertos. I don't really get that in this deck very often. That's cool. And I guess we'll do one more card. One more for group one. One more card. Ooh, got it. Let's see. Oh, I love. Okay, this card makes it really pulls on my heartstrings. This one and Ancestors in this deck. There's an Ancestors card. But okay, so you got Lady de los Muertos and Eternal Love. We have acceptance and equality, and love is love is love, and it transcends physical death. Beautiful. So what that gives me, yeah, this message is pretty clear. So, man, they go so well together. Okay, so this card is about how death is kind of a great equalizer. You know, it affects everyone eventually. And laughing at it can take away a lot of the fear. Embracing it and accepting it can take away a lot of the fear. And I think that can be so helpful for dealing with anxiety, you know, really figuring out what is it that you are afraid of and how much of it is a real concern versus irrational fear. And more importantly than that, figuring out where fear is showing up in your life in ways that you're not aware of, like at the subconscious level, that you don't actually necessarily think I'm afraid of this, but it is showing up in your actions more than you might even realize. So yeah, that is clear, and it goes so well with Eternal Love because it really shows, like, if you don't do ancestor work, you might have some of that to do. I like I said, I associate this with the Ancestors card in this deck. I often get them together. And even if you don't work with any spirits or are into that kind of thing, you have so many people who love you in your life, and it's really a shame to lose sight of that due to fear and isolation. And yeah, it's really, when you are isolating yourself, you might forget just how many people love you, and you might not even realize how much you're thinking of them instead of really talking to them. And yeah, maybe you do want to do ancestor work. I'm not sure, but this is really giving me like, let go of your fears, or at least look into how they might be driving your behavior more than you think. And yeah, that you probably are a bit too isolated. You know, I don't want to make sweeping claims, but if you're here for entertainment purposes or looking to validate how you're feeling, what I'm getting from this is yes, this is someone who is too withdrawn, who needs to say yes more. And remember that love is everywhere and fear is limiting, and you can always seek out the people who love you for support in coming back a bit and letting go of those fears. And even if things go wrong, disappointment is not the end. It's not the end. And yeah, you can always reinvent yourself. The Hermit is totally about introspection for self transformation, and you can always find a new guiding light that isn't anxiety, that is a lot more clear. So yeah, that is the reading I've received for you, Group 1. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're having a great Virgo season. I feel like it's always a transition this time of year, regardless of where you are in your life. It always seems like, yeah, there's a newness to it, and that can be hard for people with anxiety. I feel you. So if that is you, I wish you all the best with that. I really do feel you. I hope this reading resonated. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you feel like it. I would love to hear in the comments if you have anything you'd like to share. And yeah, I hope you're having a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching this, and please take care, stay blessed, and hopefully I will see you in another video soon. Bye! Hello, Group 2. This is going to be your reading. I have to say, I think the Hermit card in the Spacious Tarot is my favorite out of all of these. It's so cool. Just like totally, I don't know, it really does it for me. But yes, hello. I have somewhat of a structured reading planned for you today. We've got 4 positions for the tarot cards, and then we'll pull some oracle cards from a few different decks. So that's the plan. Oh. Okay, I really like the color scheme we have going on here. So these are your cards. I'll explain the positions. So I kept the Hermit card out to sort of just set the tone for us. And then the first card for this spread is your path that you've been on, because if you're not familiar with the Hermit card, it's about someone who is sort of introspecting. They're on like this journey out in the wilderness to find themselves and understand the world and themselves better, and they have this lantern. So our spread positions are the path, your distractions, your true self, you know, that you're searching for or maybe haven't quite found yet, and then your guiding light. So this is really interesting. And like I said, I love the color scheme. It's very complimentary. I'm definitely getting a very clear message here. So I will talk about it now. So with the 2 of Pentacles being your path, this is giving me like, you have probably been employed for most of the past couple of years, maybe not. I guess either way, you sort of are very focused on your financial, material survival, sort of balancing that with your health and your mental health. Yeah, the Two of Pentacles is like all about balance here and kind of just like, you know, infinitely everything feeding back into itself. But definitely just like a very earth energy based focus on life. So yeah, it seems like you've been mostly focused on like the mundane material things, and maybe you haven't had as much headspace for your own self-development. And I kind of see that as being backed up by the Justice card, because you could kind of take this a couple of ways. The first way is like literally you are very committed to the pursuit of social justice. This card like personally made me understand the Justice card better, because it's all about cause and effect, and like literally right here you have this like rippling effect. And so yeah, if justice has been a distraction for you, specifically in the context of the Hermit card and your own isolation and self-development, I think that you may be so community focused on the practical, important things in life, supporting your family, supporting your community. You may not have had as much time to really focus on yourself and what you want, or just getting to know yourself better, which has been a theme for so many people recently. So there's that side of it. There's also a side of being so in survival mode. You have somewhat of a punishing style interpersonally when it comes to conflict. So you might struggle when people aren't as practically focused as you, or when people aren't as committed to social progress and development as you. If someone, you may have even frustration with people who are in more of a phase of self-discovery and like education and growth, because they aren't in a phase of focusing on more practical material matters. So that might be irritating for you and distracting, and that might be, yeah, that can really take away from someone's ability to focus on themselves, right? It's all this balance here. And so you may not be keeping up with that balance as much as you'd like, or you might be like not even realizing how much you're grasping onto one thing instead of the other, because you're so intent on getting a grasp on things and feeling a sense of control. I definitely see a theme of wanting to control things here. With the Five of Cups as your true self, I definitely see a lot of unexamined grief and maybe even trauma. I definitely see someone who, yeah, might not be as in touch with their feelings as they might want to be. And also what I see with Five of Cups as your true self is you may be so sort of focused on your grind, on hustling, that you don't get to sit with your sadness enough. So that is very much avoiding the energy of the Hermit. And so I'm already starting to trend towards the response that you're not too isolated, and you may actually be missing out on valuable introspection. Being really focused on the material, practical parts of life, it can make you kind of short-sighted. So you can only see so far in front of you because you are in that survival mode. You're missing out on what is there working for you, what is good, and maybe also just what's unexamined in your life, in your past, in your psyche. Yeah, I'm definitely getting this sense of like desperate control, survival mode, not having enough time to self-examine. With Seven of Cups as your guiding light, that also, and the fact that it's reversed and stuff, that also gives me that in your attempts to be balanced and to be practical and to be a lot of things for a lot of people, you are getting pretty scattered and spread pretty thin. And you might not be pouring into the cups that you want to be pouring into, like yourself. You may not really acknowledge the fact that you need some of your energy too. You need time and space to be able to evaluate your life and yourself and where you are and see if you like how things are going. You may use social justice and being involved in your community or your family as a way to avoid looking at yourself. And you know, that's very normal. That's certainly not unusual in any way. But it's definitely something to be aware of because it can lead to burnout. I'm definitely seeing the potential for that here because even if you are financially, materially provided for due to your hard work, you may not emotionally have what you need or the self-care that you need. This is kind of giving me Virgo energy, actually. Like, yeah, someone who's kind of a workaholic. I think there's a cicada outside, or a cricket. Yeah, it's giving me someone who actually does maybe have a lot of neuroses or anxiety or just some unexamined mental health things that you might want to look at, but who is so busy that you don't necessarily address that because you're always sort of spinning your wheels on to the next thing, staying up, 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 not really slowing down to look a bit farther ahead to see if there's anything you're missing. So now I'm going to move on to oracle cards. I'm really excited about this first deck. Well, I'm always excited about all of my decks, but I'm excited for this deck because it's new. It's the excuse me, it's the Phenomena Oracle by Jessica Bott, who created another deck in this video that I mentioned earlier, the Botanical Tarot, and she also created the Blacklight Botanical Oracle, which I'm going to link in the cards up here and in the description. My most recent video is a deck review of that deck, so please do check that out if you're interested. It's a really cool one. But this is also a deck that she made recently called the Phenomena Oracle, and it's all about natural phenomena. And I thought it would be perfect for sort of the nature-y theme here and sort of like the path-finding, path-working theme. So yeah, we're gonna try that. See what comes out. It'll sort of illuminate more about the path that you're on, your current environment, your mental, spiritual environment, or your physical one. Ooh, should I just take those three? Maybe. Let's check out the guidebook. There's this cute, teeny tiny little pamphlet of a guidebook. So for sun, clarity, warmth, energy. These are things that you might not have if you're so focused on the grind. Crystallize, create, solidify, become. That's definitely very Virgo, Two of Pentacles, workaholic energy. And I think kind of a warning to not get too stuck in one certain state of being. It's important to be fluid. It's important to be able to self-evaluate. You don't have to feel trapped on the current path you're on. You know, you can deviate. You're not a rigid molecular structure or crystalline substance. You can deviate. You can go a different way. This meteor here. For that one, we have wish, luck, and excitement. Yeah, I think like this is sort of pointing towards looking up a bit from the depths of your own focus and drive, and seeing the bigger picture, seeing different perspectives, remembering that work isn't your whole life, or self-sacrifice, altruistic behaviors, or they're not your whole life. There's more to life than that. You need to look into yourself as well. You can't use taking care of others or performing the way society wants you to in a certain way by, you know, having a traditional job or, you know, being a good cog under capitalism. You don't want to get so lost in that you forget yourself and your own endless ability to transform yourself and find new parts of yourself that are exciting, that are ready to be explored. So definitely not getting that you're too isolated as of right now. I'm getting that you probably need to slow down a little bit more. But we have more oracle decks to look at, so of course we have to bring out the inner child oracle. I love this deck so much. Oh my gosh, I really, really do. I don't see people use it enough. It's so good, so pretty, collage art. See what you get. A little more advice. We have spend time in nature. Yes. Total vibe for this whole reading, and a good way to slow down and get grounded and like connect with yourself and your body, not just your mind all the time, you know. And we're gonna look for one more card. Do what you need to do. With that, you know, I'm getting, don't get so caught up in doing what you need to do that you forget the other things that you need to do, which include loving yourself, taking care of yourself, developing yourself as a person outside of just your professional life or your public life, your social life. There is your own unique relationship to yourself and your hobbies and your interests and your health that needs to be considered. To read them specifically, we got spend time in nature. The beauty of nature offers our souls unlimited nourishment. Go outside today and connect with the earth. Feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, touch the softness of a plant, listen to the babble of a stream. Dig your toes into the rich soil and feel yourself connected to this wondrous place we call home. And do what you need to do. What it is that we want and what it is that we need can be two separate things. And when it is so, often the difference between self-indulgence and self-care. Reflect upon the difference between these two in your life. Ask yourself if they have meant the same thing to you and how this might have impacted your journey. So I don't think you're necessarily guilty of too much self-indulgence here. I think it might be kind of the opposite. Or maybe the rare times you do let yourself engage in self-care, it's actually just indulgence that you never really offer yourself except for these extremely rare moments. And it's actually never enough to like truly compensate for the imbalance that's in place, for what's missing. So that's interesting. I definitely am vibing with the spend time in nature, spend time. Apologies, group 2. I had my battery die in the middle of that. So yeah, apologies. Also a lighting change. We're a mess. Not really, but I'm sorry for the disruption. We're back now. So I was just saying, I'm really leaning on the side of you are not too isolated. You actually really may benefit from spending time in nature, from leaning into hermit energy, being a little bit less focused on your career, your finances, your family, your community, because those things are important, but you also need to be nurturing yourself. So I'm going to pull Halloween oracle cards. Love this deck. I figure Virgo season leads up to spooky season, so this would be perfect. And yeah, I actually got this deck in Salem, Massachusetts. I live in Massachusetts nearby, so let's just try to get 2 cards to sort of finish out the reading, and they already fell out. Okay. What was I saying? Oh my gosh, we have zombie control and Skull of Stars, infinite possibilities. Yes. I'm really getting like imbalanced Virgo energy here, where you're in the workaholic mode, but maybe you need to lean into the Hermit side of things, where you need to get away from the rat race and do more personal exploration. So control makes total sense here. What are you avoiding in your desire to control your external environment or your own self-discipline? What aspects of yourself are you avoiding adjusting? What parts of yourself make you feel out of control? With the 5 of Cups as your true self, I'm sensing a lot of emotionality here that you're not necessarily addressing. And with the Skull of Stars, you have infinite possibilities. So I think there is just so much to you that you have not explored. That's what I'm getting from this. Like, truly anything is possible when it comes to healing your own trauma or just exploring parts of yourself you haven't let yourself see before, or rerouting your life. Like I was saying with Crystallize, not everything is set in stone. You can always deviate and branch out. There's always hope, like the meteor. It's basically like the star card. So yeah, that seems pretty straightforward to me. I'm seeing you're not isolated enough, or you're not too isolated. You may use your proximity to others and other stimuli outside of yourself as a way to control your life, your circumstances, your own exposure to your own emotions, your exposure to the unknown and what you cannot control. And there's so much out there, whether it's a spiritual journey or just knowing yourself better and being able to show up more authentically. It really might surprise you just how much that can actually improve your ability to manifest physical things or just like show up for others. Being more in touch with yourself, your feelings, your internal world and emotions, it can be a huge benefit. Even if it's hard, if it's painful, if it's different for you to sort of look up from a very narrow focus and sort of open your mind and expand, that is always waiting for you. And it might well do you some good. You know, these videos are for entertainment purposes only, but if you're here for suggestions or advice, final consensus is I do not think you are too isolated. You may benefit from some personal time alone for introspection. So that is the reading I've received for you today, Group 2. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you feel like doing that. I would also love to hear from you in the comments if you want to talk about what resonated or if you have any feedback. And yeah, I hope you're having a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching this. Stay blessed, take care of yourselves, and hopefully I will see you in another video soon. Bye! Hello, Group 3. Sorry for a bit of a lighting change. Some time has gone by since I filmed the intro. But yeah, I'm so excited to do this reading for you. You chose the Gentle Tarot today. And yeah, I'll just get right into it. I actually did plan a structured spread for this, semi-structured. So I'm going to pull some tarot cards, and then I'm going to pull some oracle cards, and we'll see, you know, are you too isolated? Do you maybe need to take some more time and space for yourself. You're going to get some answers on that, and I'll explain sort of what the spread means. Hopefully we'll get some ideas and we'll channel something good. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm getting from these. Well, first I'll tell you what the positions are for each card, and then I'll tell you the download that I'm getting here. So the first card is Four of Wands, and the position that it's in this spread is the path you are on. Because if you're not familiar with the Hermit card energy, it's all about a person going on a journey of self-exploration, a literal journey like into the wilderness with a lantern, but also very much a figurative, mental, spiritual journey into yourself to get to know yourself better. So that is your path card. The next card is distractions, because there will always be distractions on our own personal journey to discover ourselves. And for you, the card in the distractions position is the King of Swords, the Harvest of Thunder in this deck, which is interesting. Then in your true self position is the third card. You have Two of Thunder or Two of Swords. And then for your guiding light of the lantern, you have Two of Wands reversed. So let's talk about it. It's really interesting that you got all fire and air energy, no majors, only minors, and two of each element, or two of the same element. What I'm getting for this is that you have been on a journey of celebrating life, celebrating yourself, because your true self is being represented by Two of Thunder, which in this deck's guidebook actually, it references the Hermit card. It says that this person is channeling Hermit energy by withdrawing into themselves to help themselves make a decision. Two of Swords is all about indecisiveness or having to come to a decision and having a difficult choice. But ultimately, if you give yourself the time and the space, you can figure out what you need to do. So that is your true self in this spread. So what that's giving me is that by nature, you are probably a pretty introverted person, but that recently you may have been on a journey of breaking free of that a little bit and channeling more of this fiery wand energy and engaging with the world more, not being suspended in self-doubt or indecision, and just kind of going for it, living life and trusting in your own decision-making ability. With your distraction being King of Swords, though, King of Swords in reverse, that's telling me that while you may be going out of your comfort zone a little bit, you are still probably having some communication problems. And that might be as a result of doing something that's unfamiliar to you, or just the fact that, yeah, you don't know how to apply yourself to some of the situations you've been putting yourself in. So chances are you haven't been as isolated as you're used to being, or yeah, I'm just getting the vibe that you've been putting yourself out there more, but maybe that you're still figuring out how to find balance there and make that process enjoyable for you. You may have been having some blunders or getting involved in situations or with people who you don't want to be connected to, but maybe you know, something starts, you start going down one path and you don't feel like you can back out, or before you know it, yeah, you just feel like you're in too deep and you don't know how to set boundaries for yourself and walk away. With Two of Wands reversed as your guiding light, it's interesting because Two of Wands is already a card about journeys and starting journeys and sort of planning and charting out where you're going to go and exercising your personal power in doing so. So I'm sensing that a little bit of that energy is blocked. And so between that and the reversed King of Swords, it's almost like you've been doing a really brave and strong thing in trying to do things differently and reach out more and challenge yourself in that way, but you may not have the tools that you need to get outcomes that would be more positive or beneficial for you. So I do really applaud the effort you've been putting in there, but maybe there's a bit more we can do so that you're not overwhelmed as easily by how things go. You feel more in control of what's happening and less like you're just rushing into something without really knowing what you're gonna do when you get there. You know, like Two of Wands is really solid planning abilities, but this is in reverse for you, right? In the position of your guiding force. So it's kind of like you're losing your way. You're being brave, you're out on the path, you know, but you might not know how to fend for yourself out there. So I'm trending towards, if I have to forecast it so far, you've been less isolated than you may normally be inclined to be by nature, but you may not have been enjoying it as much as you thought that you would have or that you should have, and probably not as much as you could. So yeah, I think we should just move right into pulling oracle cards here to get more information on that. But it really does feel like you've been actively trying to channel this fire energy, but by nature you're more of, you might not necessarily be an air sign, but you have a lot of air energy, and it's almost like it's kind of out of control, or you feel out of control of the situation, and you're looking for something a lot more mellow. Like, I think it's really interesting that this Two of Swords is, well, that card is usually associated with water, so it makes sense that it's underwater, but the fact that the guidebook directly links it to the Hermit, which is really earthy energy to me, it's interesting. It's almost like, you know, you need to bring that kind of energy more into balance for you. Same with this King of Swords, is like actually very earthy looking as well. So let's see what the oracle cards say about this. I'm really excited to see what they say. And the first deck that we're going to use actually is called the Phenomena Oracle deck. It's by a creator named Jessica Bott, who actually made another one of the decks in this video that I referenced earlier, the Botanical Tarot deck. And she also made another oracle deck called the Black Light Botanical Oracle, and I'll put that in the cards above. It's actually the most recent video on my channel. Right before this, I made a deck review video for that deck. So if you're interested in that, please do check that out. I'll also have the link in the description. But yeah, this is actually the newest deck in my collection, and I'm really excited to be working with it. I'm still kind of getting familiar with it, but I thought it would be perfect for this because it's all about sort of different environments and earthly phenomena. Well, some are in space as well, but you know, while we're on the topic of like path working and stuff, or pathfinding or just journeys, I thought it would be cool to see what comes out of this deck. These are so pretty. Oh my goodness. One more card for group 3. Okay. Interesting. So let's see what the guidebook says. The guidebook is actually just this tiny little pamphlet. It's so cute. But for storm, we have energy, outburst, and threat. For dew, we have beginnings, fresh, and purity. And for flood, we have cover, surround, and swallow up. So I think this ties pretty directly to the lack of control that we were just talking about. The storm feels very literally like it's like this storm is happening underwater here for this person, right? This person feels very stormy mentally, and with the King of Swords in reverse, you're lacking the mental clarity that you wish you had, that by nature you sort of seek out, and you feel uncomfortable without it. And so that can lead to you feeling reactive and unbalanced like this storm. And with the dew, yeah, I mean, that's really giving me this energy of like you have been on this journey to sort of change things up in your life and do some things differently. But it's like you're so new to that almost that you're totally out of your element. That's dew. It's literally giving me like new, you are new to this way of life. With flood, I think flood further speaks to the lack of control that you're feeling, and maybe the disconnectedness that you're feeling to yourself and your nature, because it's covering up, surrounding, swallowing you and like your self-identity. So it's almost like, again, this feeling of sort of not knowing what you're getting yourself into, and now you feel like you can't go back. I don't know what changed in your life. If you had some sort of tower moment with this lightning energy in the storm, or if you just for some reason feel locked into this way of doing things. Perhaps it's like you got involved with a bunch of social engagements or like different commitments that you made, and now you're getting really stretched thin and burned out or something, and you wish you could say no to things but feel like you can't, and you slowly feel like your energy is being stripped away or something like that, and you're scared of where things are going. I'm almost getting that kind of energy. It's interesting that we have watery type phenomena on both of these, and you could argue storm if there's rain as well. That's kind of like that water I was talking about earlier, and of course water is the element of emotions. So if you are introverted, you know, you might need a lot of extra time to sort of process your day and your feelings, how things made you feel, and react to like fully understand yourself and how you're feeling about your life. So if you've recently become more busy or more externally stimulated than you're used to, you might not be getting as much processing time as you're used to, or you might not be left with as much energy at the end of the day as you're used to as well. So that might be really throwing you off. I'm thinking it would be good to move on to the next oracle deck here. Pull on my dearly beloved Inner Child Oracle. I love the Inner Child Oracle so much. I am just always shocked that people don't use it more. Honestly, I think it's just so great. And I thought it would be perfect for this because, I don't know, Hermit energy, I was saying before, like, Hermit energy, it's like that first time in your life. It's a little bit before halfway through the Fool's journey. It's kind of like slowing down for the first time to do inner child work and sort of look at your youth and your past. Get lost. Okay. And go on an adventure. So, okay. I think I'm getting this now. So, well, let me just read both of them first to start. So, Get Lost says, the magic of imagination is calling to you now. Create space to get lost in new and exciting worlds. Read a book, watch a movie, write a story, create a work of art. Let your imagination run wild and do what connects you to the wonderment of childhood, where anything was possible and the extraordinary lay just around the corner. And Go on an Adventure says, today is the day to try something new. Explore just for fun and be a bit more daring. Practice living in the moment, do something spontaneous, and be okay with not having anything or everything planned. Do not let apprehension keep you from your new adventure. That feeling will fade, but the wonder that is to be found will surely not. So, once again, if this is a new attitude for you, I really do applaud you for challenging yourself. I think what I'm getting from this here is that you did lean into this go on an adventure energy, but what you don't necessarily have to do actually is get lost. Not in your actual literal physical life in terms of the decisions that you make, the people you get involved with, or what you actually do. So you can channel this going on an adventure energy literally, but you can still have planning ability. When it comes to the practical things that seriously affect your life, you can have a more controlled adventure. If you really want to just go totally wild and not have to worry about the consequences, that's where you can get lost. But see, this get lost bit is like much more mental. It's not about getting lost in another person or an organization or a job that's not working for you. It's about getting lost with yourself, right? Like in your own inner world, especially if you're an introvert. You don't always have to be working on yourself. It's when you bring that go on an adventure energy out into other areas of your life, the more literal, practical, materially significant parts of your life, that you can get into issues. That's where it can start to really get unbalanced. So yeah, I'm definitely really starting to trend towards you've been less isolated. But again, maybe you actually do need to return to that state a bit more because you're not in balance, and you'll be better at adventuring and even better at getting lost because you'll be more clear on your own abilities, your own energy level, and your competence. You'll know exactly what you are and what you're not capable of. And again, I will give you that, like some of that knowledge is gained through just going for it and testing yourself. But that can be really risky, and you don't necessarily have to figure things out that way in a way that's such high risk. These suggestions here are much more about working with yourself in ways that won't mess up your life. So let's get some final clarification from one more oracle deck. I wanted to bring out the Halloween Oracle. Love this deck. I actually got it in Salem, Massachusetts. I live in Massachusetts, so that was really special. And I just figured Virgo season leads up to spooky season, so these are perfect, I think, for sort of exploring the darker parts of this reading. We have the inner child side, and then we have the spooky Halloween Samhain side. So let's see, what messages do we have for group 3? Looking for 2 more cards. Oh, this one. Owl. Okay. Got owl. Hooray. What do we got? The underworld. Okay, well that seems like a pretty definitive answer. So I would definitely say that you, in fact, could use a little more time in isolation. Again, you know, it's always important to say these videos are for entertainment purposes. You know, if you're here, it's because you're looking for confirmation or just some advice that you are not taking completely to heart to extremes, and ultimately you are in control of your own destiny. So please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But looking at the whole picture here, it's not even calling for a very long-term introspective withdrawal period. I think because of your nature of spending more time alone or with yourself reflecting, you don't necessarily need like this huge journey of turning inward for a very long time like some people do. I'm thinking this is probably more of a short-term thing, where you just need to take some more time to yourself to just wisen up a little bit in terms of your plans so that you have the most serious aspects of your life in order, and in that way you'll be free to play in the ways that you want to with this fun celebratory 4 of Wands energy, getting lost on your adventure. If you cultivate the skills of the owl, wise seeing, wise action, you'll be much better at navigating, because even if you don't necessarily take a whole ton of time to plan, you have the skills that you need to perceive what options make sense for you. With the underworld, that's where it was kind of like, yeah, this was the very definitive final card of this reading, where all things pause and begin again. So is it a huge introspective journey you're going on here? A massive hermit voyage or expedition? No, this is a pause. This is saying go through a mini hermit energy pause and then come back and look at your life with fresh eyes. Literally. So I think you've already done a lot to begin again, to start over, to choose new ways of being. But, you know, with that is going to come a learning curve, and you don't have to feel like you have to jump in completely and like never look back, never go to anyone for advice, or, you know, take moments of pause to evaluate how you're doing on your journey. That's not the case. Yeah, also this with new beginnings and stuff. You don't want to get caught in the flood, you know, nor do you want to get caught out in the storm. So be more like the owl. Yeah, I'm definitely again, I'll say it one more time because it really is a big deal. So proud of you for channeling this fire energy and putting yourself out there more. I seriously think that's amazing. I think it just takes some practice, and what the cards are saying here is that you may want to dial it back a little bit just for a little while so that you can have an even better time once you step back into that energy. So that's the reading I received. Yeah, that's what I got for you. I'm seeing not a huge Hermit period, but definitely a short one. So I hope you enjoyed this reading, pile 3. Please feel free to like and subscribe with this video if you are interested in doing so. I would love to hear from you in the comments as well if this resonated or if you have any feedback. And yeah, I hope you're having a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching this. Stay blessed, take care, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Bye! Hello, group 4. Welcome to your reading. You chose the Botanical Tarot deck. This deck is interesting, so your reading is going to be a little unique. We'll see what comes out. So for all of these, I'm starting with the tarot deck that you chose and then moving into oracle cards. Your deck is interesting because it's actually a tarot deck that comes with oracle cards mixed in, and I'm not taking them out, so we'll just see if you get any of them. I mean, I'm kind of, if I'm being honest, hoping that you don't, because it'll just be easier to explain, but I'm just gonna leave that up to chance. Yeah, this deck is interesting. It's all plants, but she threw in a bunch of extra ones. We got our first card. Oh, that's curious. It's honestly so hard to shuffle this thing. Oh my goodness, it's so gigantic. Like one stack is the size of some decks in their entirety. So funny. Okay, really interesting split energy here. So we didn't have any oracle cards come out, so that's useful. No need to explain anything extra here. I think it's really interesting. You have 2 cups. Flowers are cups in this deck, and trees are majors. So you have water and then majors energy. So that's interesting. I'll explain the positions of the cards now. So the first card in this spread is the path you've been on. So if you're unfamiliar with the Hermit card and the Hermit energy, the original card features an individual who is out on a journey of self-discovery. You know, it's introspective, it's lonely, it's in the wilderness, they have a lantern, if you were wondering why these were here, other than just like plain aesthetics. And yes, so this is the Path card, and you have the 7 of Cups in reverse, which interestingly came out in a different one of the groups, obviously in a different deck, but yeah, interesting. And for the next card, this position is representing the distractions along your journey. So the card representing your distractions is actually the 8 of Flowers, so the 8 of Cups, and it's interesting, we have 7, 8. So, and then the next card is your true self, which is sort of what the Hermit is on the journey to figure out, you know. So your true self is being represented by the Wheel of Fortune, the money tree here. And that's the first of the majors energy. The final card is your guiding light, or the lantern. And I thought it was so funny because you got the sun here as your guiding light, which is pretty ideal, I would say. You have some challenging energy with both of these cups actually, but both of these trees are so strong and positive. I think that they sort of balance it out, but let's talk about it. So with Seven of Cups in reverse as your path, you've been pretty caught up in a lot of different options in your life. So that tells me it can kind of go either two ways. You've either been branching out a lot and sort of reaching in a lot of different directions for these 7 different cups. This deck is a little tricky because it completely departs from all of the energy in the original Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So if you're familiar with any of that, clearly it does not apply here. But the typical 7 of Cups, each cup contains its own curiosity, a different alluring object or resource. So it's easy to get tempted towards all of them, but realistically you can probably only have a couple of them at maximum. So that's just to explain the typical imagery there. So that tells me you've probably been scattered, but the other way that you could go with that is you've been so torn in different directions or pulled in different directions that you have struggled to make any decisions. And that can actually lead to a lot of withdrawal and isolation. If you're completely immobilized by indecision and desire for a lot of different things that contradict each other, you may very well be more isolated. That's already suggesting 2 pretty different paths. They're literally paths. So we can move on to the other cards to get a little bit more clarity. With the 8 of Cups, that is a painful transition usually. It's usually grieving a loss and moving on with a lot of pain in your heart, a heavy heart, a lot of challenge. Not always. Sometimes it's easy to move on versus other times, but a lot of the time there's a lot of emotional weight there. And just saying that out loud is making me think perhaps you're not letting yourself feel all of that emotion that's there. So I think that feeds right back into the 2 different options we have going on so far. You could be on the more withdrawn side and sort of filling the void that's created by your grief by perhaps a bunch of different material objects or pursuits or substances. And that a lot of the time is isolating. You're maybe hiding how much you're consuming, whether it is material goods or other things. You could be dealing with addiction in that sense. Or you could be reaching out and trying to get involved with as many things or people as possible to avoid the feelings that you're feeling or not wanting to be feeling. So you could be making a ton of new friends or dating around with a bunch of people or just dedicating all of your time to your family. You could be doing anything in your power really to avoid whatever it is that has been eating at you with your distractions here. In fact, you are probably distracting yourself with anything but what is truly eating at you. That can manifest as either being really engaged with other people and with society and with different groups, or it can be you're really tied up by yourself and dealing with the imbalances in your life very privately. I'm definitely sensing some shame. It's just about how you cope with that shame. So moving on to the money tree, the Wheel of Fortune, that is your true self. And I think that sort of speaks to the imbalance that you're feeling and sort of the emotion that you're feeling. Like with you, I'm feeling like your wheel is constantly turning. You probably don't feel very in control of your situation, or you're literally spinning your wheels out constantly to avoid the thing that's hurting. Or you're so hurt by this thing that you can't trust any success or prosperity that you have in your life because you're waiting for the tables to turn on you again. And so that can be where things get into self-sabotage. Maybe you are constantly changing things up because you want to make that move first before something or someone hurts you. You're like, if I can cut and run first, then I can avoid getting hurt again. We all know that's usually not a winning strategy, but it is certainly a common one. But you have to remember here you have the sun as your guiding light, which is beautiful. Although again, as I'm saying this, it's making me wonder, is this a toxic positivity side of the sun coming out? Are you so afraid of this grief that you're doing anything to stay in the sun, stay in warm positivity, avoiding the cold waters here, to avoid feeling anything negative? Sort of immediately makes me think, okay, you're probably socializing more, or you're probably more outwardly engaged, but you can be chasing this feeling of the sun by yourself, for sure. Whether it's through objects or substances or video games or anything to escape reality. I feel like it almost doesn't even matter if you're too isolated or not, because either way, I'm seeing that you're out of balance. And really, that's the core of what we're getting at in this reading. So whichever camp you're in, I think we're going to need to look at your oracle cards. Hey, just a smooth transition there, but really, maybe we'll get more clarity if we look at those, because I'm a little worried, pile 4 or group 4. I'm not gonna lie, this is a bit troubling. So let's do oracle cards. The first deck we're gonna use, I'm so excited about it. It's my newest deck in my collection, and it is the Phenomena Oracle deck by Jessica Bott, who is the person who created this deck. I've been referencing that in all the other piles, but here I can just clearly say this is the same artist as this deck right here. And she actually created the Blacklight Botanical Oracle deck, which is the most recent video on my channel right before this one. I will link it in the cards up here. So you can check that out if you're interested. I'll also have it in the description if you're interested in a deck review video of that deck. I have it for you, but otherwise we'll take a look at Phenomena. I thought the Phenomena Oracle would be perfect for this reading because it's all about natural phenomena, and this is a very like earthy Hermit energy reading we have going on, and it's also about like pathfinding, path working. So I thought it would be cool to show the environments that you're in, whether it's more literally physically or just mentally. Ooh, okay, volcano. What else for group 4? Okay, these two fell out, so I'm gonna take these. This definitely is still feeling very chaotic, group 4. Volcano really came out there very decisively, immediately. This deck is so cute, it comes with this little pamphlet. For Volcano, we have the keywords creation, destruction, and altering. Then we have rain and hurricane, so we have cleanse, refresh, washed out, and we have power, menacing force. So definitely seems like you're in for a good cry, like maybe you've been holding back tears, group 4. And I also think that the imbalances that you're facing really do have some serious potential consequences if you don't deal with them. It really does feel menacing, like a hurricane. It feels like it could do a lot of damage. potentially, if you let things go on for too long. If you have a lot of pent-up emotions, you know, you could end up expressing them really explosively at an inappropriate time. You could impulsively break something, end something, start something you don't want to get into. You know, things that will have repercussions on your life for a long time. So yeah, rain is obviously the most stabilizing force here, but it really feels like you're holding that back. So yeah, it feels like you need to cleanse and refresh yourself, and that is suggesting some withdrawal. But at the same time, for some of you, if you haven't been telling anyone about how you're feeling, it seems like you do really need to open up to someone and probably have a good cry. There's probably someone close to you who is not aware of how you're feeling, who would really like to help you, but you need to have the strength and bravery to tell them. Even if you're not isolated, even if you are surrounding yourself with people, I don't think you're going very deep with them. You know, you're not getting into the rain of life, into the cups, the feelings, the big hard feelings. Like, you're not opening up to anyone. So again, it's almost like it doesn't matter because you're having shallow interactions with people. If you're isolated, then you need to talk to people, and if you're around people, well, you're not having serious conversations. So either way, you need to go deep with someone, because I'm sensing so much of this imbalance building up here. You need to sort of level that and wash it away. Wash some of that pain away, some of that pent-up frustration, some of that insecurity, the fear. And maybe you need to let the sun get covered up by storm clouds, you know? You can't live in the sun all the time. In fact, if you did, it would lead to catastrophic weather events. You really cannot have the sun all the time, and it has to be rainy sometimes. So I think this is also just reinforcing that potential negative, or rather like toxic positivity aspect of the sun. Normally the sun is one of the most positive cards of the tarot to get, but you know, it can have its less ideal context, and I think this is one of those rarer times where the sun isn't necessarily that great for you. Unfortunately, group 4, but now we'll move on to the Inner Child Oracle. I love this deck so much. Makes me so happy. Thought it would be perfect for this because to me, I feel like Hermit energy, it feels like the first time in your life that you really slowed down to do inner child work. Like, Hermit comes right before the Wheel of Fortune, so almost halfway through the Fool's Journey. And it's like, you look back on your life for the first time. You remember the good, yes. Let's get one more card, and we'll talk about it. Whoops. I need one more card. Ooh, thank you. You are wanted. Oh, I like the color scheme of these. Remember the good and you are wanted. So, I'll read out the descriptions first and then we'll talk about it. So, remember the good. In life, it can be easy to focus on what is missing, on what could be better. But if that's where our attention stays, it will hinder us in being able to absorb the magic of living. Take some time today to purposefully acknowledge the good things in your life, those that are around you and those that you yourself have accomplished. And you are wanted. The fear of abandonment can be a driving force in our lives. If we felt unwanted as a child, we can continue these patterns into adulthood through compulsively seeking or rejecting the attention of others. Take time to journal about what abandonment and rejection mean to you. How can you show your inner child today that they are wanted? Yeah. So Yes. Do love this deck so much. Yeah, so with You Are Wanted, I feel like that's drawing back on you being afraid to open up to people. You're afraid that if you express your true emotions, you'll be rejected, you will be called not positive enough. Remember, the good is tricky here. I guess it's almost like each one of these cards is advice for whichever camp you're in. So if you are being toxically positive and not being honest, then this card is telling you you will still be accepted even if you open up about your negative emotions. And in fact, you probably should do that. You probably should open up. You can take some time to yourself, like this card says. You can get really clear about how you're feeling so that you don't just dump on someone, especially if you haven't been candid with someone and you don't necessarily have like a huge preceding context of that in your relationship. If that's not necessarily how intimate things always are, then you don't want to just come out of nowhere and be like, hey, let me dump on you really quick, you know? So having sort of a measured response or a clear plan of sort of what you want to say or how you want to express yourself, that can be good so that you're not just like a hurricane, a tidal wave of emotions. You are sort of clear on what you want to say and how, so that you don't overwhelm people. But this card is really telling you, like, you deserve to express yourself, and if you have the right people in your life, they're going to be more than okay with you expressing yourself. In fact, they will be happy that you opened up to them, grateful that you're being real with them, and they're going to want to support you through the hard feelings that you're feeling. Because I'm really feeling the pain here with you in these challenging cups, group 4. And then for the other half of you who aren't necessarily being toxically positive and maybe are more honest with people, or maybe just are way more withdrawn, and you're dealing with your grief a lot more privately, you're spending money on things that you don't need, or again, you're filling the void with substances or food, or you're over-exercising. Any of those things tend to be a lot more isolating. This card is asking you to remember the good in your life, and instead of just constantly grasping at this void, take a look around at what you already have. You know, when you're hurting, you usually don't want to be told, be grateful. You know, that can be so annoying, and I don't want to frustrate you like that, group 4, but I am getting the message that some of you could be reminded to remember the good, remember the magic of living. You know, just as things can change for the negative with the Wheel of Fortune, you know, negative is relative, first of all. Some things are objectively negative, but other things can be reframed, put into a different context. And also, instead of saying what can go wrong, you can also ask yourself what could go right. What if everything works out fine here, you know? So remembering the good is important. Yeah, it really feels like we're kind of, again, split into two camps here. And it's two sides of the same coin. And I'm not even saying that it's this like super polarizing divide. I think plenty of people flip-flop back and forth at different times, or even within the same day, or even in the same hour, you know? It can depend on like who you're around, where you are, what you're doing, how you're feeling in that moment. So I trust that whoever's watching this, you can take away what you are meant to take away from this reading. So we do have one more oracle deck to look at. Virgo season leads up to spooky season, right? So I thought it would be perfect to use the Halloween oracle deck. I got this in Salem, Massachusetts, actually, which is so magical. I actually live in Massachusetts, so I feel very blessed to be able to get to Salem a lot more easily than most people probably. So let's pull a couple of cards from this deck. It's good. It feels like it's like, here's the inner child, and then here we have the spookier side. Not that inner child where it can't be spooky, because it can, but you know what I mean, group 4. Oh, interesting. You have the jumper, dawn, light after the darkness. Very interesting. That came out for right under the sun. You know, we had 2 cards come out together, and I'm almost feeling like, I feel like people love to do exceptions in piles. All the other piles were like perfectly balanced and symmetrical, and there were no unexpected extra cards, but I just feel called to let you have both of these, group 4, especially because we're having like these 2 different energies in the same reading. So you know what, you can have them. You can have them. I want to sort of try to fit this better so you can see. Oh yeah, that's in frame. Okay, so my camera's dying. I'll try to talk fast. We have dawn, light after the darkness, skull of flowers, creating through the ashes, and black cat, fortune meets opportunity. So again, I'm getting this energy of you're coming out of this loss, this thing that you are grieving, but you can create through the ashes. You can find the light after the darkness. That is the positive sun energy we want to be going with, not the darkness. What darkness? All I see is the sun. In fact, I'm looking straight into the sun with no consideration of my eyes. We don't want that. In fact, dawn implies that you were just in a period of night. So that means, you know, you allowed the night to happen. You acknowledge that the night happened. You're not in this energy of all sun all the time. You know, I highly doubt that you are, you know, in an area of the world at this very moment, especially because we're approaching an equinox, actually in an area of the world at this very moment where, I guess it depends on when you're watching this, but still, that you are experiencing 24/7 sunlight. That's very rare. Not even many areas that are inhabited have that kind of phenomenon. But anyway, I no need to get into random earth science. I'm sorry. Yeah, I feel like everyone always gets loopy by the end of a long reading, so pardon me, group 4. With black cat, fortune meets opportunity, you know, I feel like maybe that is a less obnoxious way to say be grateful, remember the good, you know. Fortune is what you make of it, and black cats are really freaking cool. I think it's interesting you have that. It ties into the Wheel of Fortune and the money tree kind of energy. It's maybe a reminder that something good is coming. Perhaps the light after the darkness, an opportunity to create through the ashes. Oh my goodness. So regrettable to have to switch out the battery to record like a couple more minutes. Sorry, group 4, my battery did indeed die because I was prattling on. But let's finish out this reading. So, like I was saying, the black cat is giving me, especially as the last card in your reading, I think it's a really positive sign that things are going to change for you very soon. I think you'll have an unexpected blessing crossing your path, something lucky like a black cat. I don't think you're necessarily going to adopt a cat or find one, but maybe. And yeah, just know that the wheel can always turn. I like that we have like the spinning hurricane energy right after that. You know, you're always The only constant in life is change, but if you can embrace that change, you can harness that energy to create things, to stay present and grateful for what you have, to consume things in a conscious way so that you aren't just mindlessly moving through your life and you're aware of all of your decisions and how they impact you and how you're processing things. And that consequently, you know, makes you show up better in your relationships and for your community. So you're both healthier when you're alone and you're healthier when you're engaging with people. So definitely was worried for you at the start of this, but I think that's a really positive note to end on. I have a good feeling about where things are going for you. You know which camp you're in, or maybe you are in both camps, but I'm sorry for whatever it is you have been dealing with, because I can tell that it is seriously painful, and you know, that isn't something to take lightly. So it's not something to erase, whatever you're doing to avoid it. I think, you know, it's time for you to really face it, to really acknowledge the full extent of how painful it is and how much it's affecting you. And then that's how you can start to heal and start to move forward fully. Instead of all of these half measures of running from things and not being honest with the people that you care about, and not being honest with yourself, being toxically positive, or not working to heal your attachment problems. So I do think this reading is calling for some more hermit energy, some more time alone, but for some of you more than others, it is calling for you to reconnect with the people close to you and really open up to them about what it is that you've been going through. Seek support, because I think a lot of you are going through too much of this alone. It's like you're either truly alone or you're alone in a crowded room type of energy. So either way, it's like you have been going it alone for too long now, and you're letting your grief isolate you, and it's not healthy, and it's not conducive to healing, and it could make things a lot worse and take a lot longer for you to get better. So I would strongly advise reaching out to someone, maybe even a professional, to help you process your grief, whatever it is. I will, of course, always remind these videos are for entertainment purposes. You are in control of your destiny. This is for confirmation for how you're feeling. I trust that by listening to this, you know that you are making your own decisions, and you know, ultimately these videos are for funsies, and as intuition tests, and to just see what's out there, or maybe even to just enjoy some pretty cards and fun conversation, whatever it is to you. But please know that you are in control. These are cards. I am a stranger on the internet. You do you. But I'm rooting for you, group 4. And again, I think things are going to be looking up for you really soon. I feel good about it. I hope you do too after this reading. But yeah, this is the reading I have received for you. Please feel free to like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed it or if you feel like it. I would love to hear from you in the comments if you have any feedback or want to talk about how this resonated for you. And yes, I hope you're having a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching this. Take care, stay blessed, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Bye!